Check out flipsidegaming.com for all your gaming needs. Use the promo code HEROES to save 10% on all orders over $10. Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to another edition of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch. And let me tell you, Kaldheim right now is making some key Elves cards very expensive. We're going to be seeing those throughout the video today. Reserve list cards are still hot. Maybe we're starting to see those calm down just a little bit again this week. And there's a whole lot more going on within the secondary market. We'll dig into all of it in just a second. Quickly before we get started though, just a fast reminder, if you go to flipsidegaming.com, you can use that Heroes promo code to save 10% on orders over $10. Currently, you can pick up Kaldheim products there. For example, if you want a Kaldheim Collector Booster Box, when you put in the Heroes promo code, it goes down to $190.80. And remember, any order that is over $100, or if your order only consists of singles, shipping will be free in the United States. Additionally, whenever you use the promo code, it does support the channel, which is always appreciated, so thank you. And without any further ado, let's get into it. We'll begin with the standard legal spotlight. This is where we see cards that are standard legal that are moving the most this week. Now, again, this week, much like last week, I was able to make the threshold $4, which is better than it was. There's so many cards spiking, we can't look at everything. So anything that is moving down at least $4 or moving up at least $4, you'll see in the video today. We're going to begin with Kroxa, Titan of Death's Hunger. This goes up $4.65 to $25.94. And this card does see standard play. This is in Rakdos mid-range and more. Pioneer, you'll find this in Rakdos Pyromancer. Modern, it's in Death Shadow builds and more there. Also see some Commander play too. Next we have Grim Tutor, the copy from Starter $19.99. It goes up $5 to $124.99. Now this was reprinted in Core Set 2021. Ever since that happened, this copy of the card has softened up quite a bit. And it now seems to have finally stabilized, maybe around this $120, $125 mark. When it comes to gameplay, this card definitely sees Commander play. And that takes us to the Pioneer Legal Spotlight. Star of Extinction from Ixalan. This goes up $4.23 to $9.49. Popular Commander card, now seeing more play thanks to new cards from Kaldheim. Those cards include Taralf, God of Fury / Taralf's Hammer, and Igar, the Freezing Flame. Next we have Hellkite Tyrant. This week the Gatecrash copy is going up in value, up $4.84 to $27.28. This is another great Commander card that is getting a push because of new Kaldheim cards. Although nothing is pushing this more right now than Magda Brazen Outlaw. And finally in the section we have Shivan Dragon, although it is older copies that are moving up in value this week. Revised up $4.60 to $40. 5th edition goes up $19.95 to $21. We'll talk more about that one in a second. And Unlimited, in theory, going up $158.34 to $480. So the reason I say in theory, when you look at actual sales as opposed to listings, I have not seen anybody paying $480 for the card. If you look at high-grade encapsulated copies, though, sometimes they can approach the $400 mark. But remember, a lot of the reason that you're seeing some of these big spikes when it comes to vintage cards right now is because higher-grade copies are in demand. We'll talk more about that a little bit later in the vintage section. But you are seeing more and more people now buying and selling these high-grade copies, and a lot of times these are encapsulated high-grade copies. And that is throwing off the average when it comes to pricing. Also, too, typically I want to talk about the Unlimited copy here, but I figured since the other two are going up in value, let's put them all together in this section. When it comes to that 5th edition version of the card, though, that does feel like a targeted buyout. There's copies being picked up everywhere, and it has been starting to slow down over the last 24 hours or so. In fact, this has already lost some value. Probably will continue to lose value. Why would that particular copy be targeted over some others? Well, it could be that people have seen the revised copy spiking recently, so now they're looking at other copies of the card that they may want to buy out. In this case, somebody could have chose the 5th edition because it has the same artwork. Also, too, there is a weird anomaly with the 5th edition version of the card, and this is true of a few cards in that set, but about half the English language cards printed have the copyright line in Portuguese. It's just a weird thing. It hasn't actually garnered any sort of a higher price or anything in the past, but somebody may have decided they want to buy out those copies. Maybe that's why you're seeing the price spike. It is something to keep an eye on, if nothing else. When it comes to actual gameplay, this does see some Commander play, and dragons have been hot recently. Also, like I mentioned in previous videos over the past couple weeks, there are 93-94 players that could be interested in some of these older copies of cards, unlimited and in a lot of cases revised. Most 93-94 formats do allow players to play with revised cards, not all, but most do. So with a lot of people getting priced out now of alpha, beta, and unlimited, you do see more people turning to revised. All right, that's going to bring us to the Modern Legal Spotlight. We're going to begin with some cards going down in value. Greater Oromancy goes down 415 to 55.74. This card has been spiking recently, so you're seeing a little bit of retraction this week. Great card in enchantment heavy commander builds, and this is now seeing some increased play in builds around a new Kaldheim card that's a Sika God of the Tree / the Prismatic Bridge. This helps protect the Prismatic Bridge. Next we have a Boro Palace in the Clouds down 490 to 85.60. This continues to retract after recent increases due to the push Commander land strategies received from Zendikar Rising and Commander Legends recently. This does see modern play in Mill. It was seeing play in some Uro builds as well, and with Uro now being banned in Modern, that could be another reason this card is losing value and may continue to lose value. Lord of the Undead from 10th edition. This recently spiked and now it's starting to normalize, much like the previous cards we looked at. This was sort of an unusual spike though. It goes down 5.72 this week to $17. This is commonly found in zombie commander builds, including those built around a new Kaldheim card, Narfi Betrayer King. And our last card going down in value is another one that spiked recently. It is Sliver Legion from Future Sight down 12.25 to 130.48. Remember, Time Spiral Remastered is coming and any card from that block is open to possibly be reprinted very soon. Now, when it comes to gameplay, Commander Sliver decks are always going to be popular. And remember, Kaldheim also brought us some creatures with the Changeling ability recently, too. Elvish Harbinger, Dual Decks Elves vs. Goblins up $5 to $20. Dual Decks Anthology up $6.31 to $19.45. And the Lorwyn copy goes up $7.36 to $18.50. Now, as you know, Commander Legends gave some support to the Elf tribe, and then Kaldheim came along and gave a ton of support to that tribe, including a commander deck called Elven Empire. The commander in that build is Lathril, Blade of the Elves. Many players are trying to pick up cards to upgrade that build. As a matter of fact, the Command Zone podcast did a video on that this week. This was one of the cards mentioned as a good upgrade. Still, other players may be trying to build around Lathril from scratch, and this will be very good for that endeavor as well. Okay, we'll take a break from Elves and go back to Dragons. This is Balefire Dragon from Ultimate Masters. It goes up $7.46 to $39.99. Often found in Kali of the Vast or other dragon builds in Commander. Now this is getting more play in Magda Brazen Outlaw decks, as well as some other new builds that came out of Kaldheim. Auriok Champion, the original copy from 5th Dawn, goes up $7.77 to $38.86. Now this does see modern play in a number of builds, including the popular Hammer Time deck, which you see a lot on Magic the Gathering Online right now. Remember, with Uro now being banned in Modern, other decks like that one perhaps have a chance to really break out and become bigger. So I do think there's some Modern and Legacy speculation, Legacy Lost Oko, which was a big deal, around some of the cards that we're going to see in the video today, and this is one of them. Additionally, this also sees some Commander play, which is the format that's been driving prices recently. Will-O-the-Wisp from Revised. This is another Revised card. It's not going to be the last one in the video today. Those continue to be hot. This goes up $9.67 this week to $21.99. Part of it, like I mentioned, 93, 94 players could have some interest, but this also does see some play in Commander. Many times you'll find this in Otrimi, the Ever Playful builds, and more. Next we have Defense Grid. This is the original copy though from Urza's Legacy, going up $10.68 this week to $30. This does see some modern play, also going to be found in Legacy, Vintage, and Commander builds. Uzuri Renegade Leader, as we turn our attention back to the Elf tribe. As a matter of fact, Uzuri is the background art that you see in the video today, but that particular copy of the card just missed the video. That art is from the foil copy that comes in the Dual Decks Elves vs. Inventors. It was going up a little over $3. Didn't quite make that $4 threshold this week, but look at all the cards it did. The Commander Anthology version goes up $9.20 to $21. Scars of Mirrodin up $10.43 to $18. In the Commander 2014 copy up $11.11 to $19.25. Now this is actually a fairly popular Commander, but it is moving the way it is right now because of Lathril, Blade of the Elves, of course. This was another card mentioned in that Command Zone podcast episode where they talked about Elven Empire upgrades. And here's another card that was mentioned in that video, and of course, not a coincidence, another card that is going to be fantastic in these Commander Elf builds. This is Elvish Champion. 5 copies to talk about today. These were the ones moving at least $4. Duels of the Planeswalkers up $4.24 to $26. 9th edition up $5.43 to $24.99. 10th edition goes up $9.56 to $30. 7th edition goes up $10.89 to $15.88. And Invasion goes up $13.18 to $25. Next we have Blood Moon. This is the original copy from the Dark. A lot of these older cards, like I've been saying, have been hot. This one goes up $13.68 this week to $86.10. And this card does see a lot of modern play. You'll find this in Rakdos Death Shadow, Rakdos mid-range, Gruul mid-range, Mono Red aggro, and more. Also sees Legacy and Commander play. And this is getting additional Commander play now because of new cards like Magda Brazen Outlaw and Birgi God of Storytelling / Harnfil Horn of Bounty. And our last card in this section is Birds of Paradise. The 6th edition copy goes up $4.25 this week to $15.74. The revised copy up $22.98 to $90. This is a card that sees a ton of play in a lot of formats. Modern, Legacy, Commander, another card that's good in 93, 94 as well. Alright, that's going to take us to the Vintage Spotlight, and there's a lot going on here. So again, we have a special threshold when it comes to unlimited Arabian Nights, Antiquities, and Legends cards in this section of the video. They have to be moving at least $100 and 10%, just because there's so many spiking. Now, with that being said, you know a lot of reserve list cards have been spiking, although not as many as we have been seeing, so it does feel like they're starting to calm down at least a little bit. But the other phenomenon that is happening, which I think is going to continue to happen and maybe even get stronger, is the fact that more encapsulated high-grade cards are being sold online. So like I alluded to earlier, that really throws off the math, and I think we're seeing an adjustment now as to how people are going to have to think about prices, at least when it comes to the older vintage cards. Now, this isn't unique to Magic the Gathering. This is something that's been happening in other markets and other collectible industries for a while. Sports cards is where this kind of started. Basically, you saw a lot of people that didn't really care much about a lot of old cards from the 80s and 90s that were overprinted for a very long time. And then the market shifted one day, and people started thinking, you know what, if I buy one of these old boxes of baseball cards for just a few dollars, I open them up, I could get a pack fresh rookie card that might only be worth like $5 raw. But if I can get it to come back as a 10, someone might give me a few $100 for it, maybe even $1,000 for it. And all of a sudden this frenzy began where people started going back and buying all these really cheap cards from the 80s, trying to find high grade copies, trying to get them sent into Beckett or PSA. And that's really the direction the sports card industry has been going in for a while now. That has crossed over into other industries like the comic book card collection industry. There's a lot of people now doing the same thing with comic book cards, like those old Marvel Series 1 cards from 1990, things like that. And yes, this is moving into Magic the Gathering as well. High-grade graded cards have been kind of reserved for collectors of like Power 9 for a very long time, and then it expanded a little bit to some other valuable cards. But we are seeing a boom right now in that habit, and I do think that's going to continue. It's going to start encompassing more and more cards. And I do think we're all going to have to adjust the way we interpret card prices when it comes to some of these older cards in the future. So, with that being said, let's see what's going on in this section. Mana Vault from Revised, another revised card getting hot, but this one is a great vintage and commander card. It goes up $10.25 to $69.89. Underground Sea, the copy from Revised, it goes up $12.44 this week to $1,199.76. Yup, it's another revised card. Winter Orb goes up $15.55 to $29.99. Now, this does see a little legacy play in Delver builds. And like I said, that format is a little bit up in the air now because of the recent bannings, especially because of the Oko banning. So maybe this card will see more play in the future there. This also sees commander play, and it is getting increased commander play based around some cards in Kaldheim. A couple examples are Yorn God of Winter / Keldring the Rhymestaff, and Koma Cosmos Serpent. Demonic Tutor from Dual Decks Anthology. It goes up $16.18 to $73.07. However, this has been losing some value over the last 24 hours or so. We recently found out that this is getting a reprint as a Mythic Mystical Archive card in Strixhaven. This is a subset of 63 cards. You're going to find one of them per pack when it comes to draft boosters or set boosters, 3 per pack in collector boosters, and they do have rarities, so they will replace the respective rarity within the pack that you find them. They will not be standard legal, but you can play them wherever they are already legal, and you can also play them in limited games too, draft or sealed. There's even going to be Japanese language borderless versions of the cards that will be in collector boosters, and of course in Japanese product too, and that could be another variation of the card people could be chasing in the future. Now when it comes to gameplay, this is a great vintage and great commander card. It's in a lot of builds there, new and old. Mana Crypt, another card that is awesome in both vintage and commander. The Double Masters copy goes up $5.19 to $109.95. The Eternal Masters copy up $16.31 to $136. The original Mercadian Masks copy of Rashad Import goes up $20.08 this week to $58.03. This does see legacy play and commander play. And again, this could be another card that is moving because of those changes in the legacy format. For example, many times you'll find this in Death and Taxes. That deck could be getting better soon. Volcanic Island, this is the revised copy. It goes up $38.45 to $988.45 this week. Okay, now we're going to start looking at the big movers for this section. These are all cards that are moving at least $100. Now, when we talk about these prices, remember there's a lot of high-grade encapsulated cards that are changing hands right now that's pushing the price point for most of these cards we're going to see here. Also, too, there's a lot of market manipulation. So first off, when I show you the price, it's going to be the price that it feels like the card is moving on paper if you just do the math. In other words, these are the type of prices you might see if you go to your price tracking websites. They take into account not only sales, but also listings. Some of these listings can be exaggerated, but again, that's not always malicious. Sometimes it is. But other times, people are just putting up high prices and they're fishing for an offer because there's been so many record-breaking sales recently. A lot of sellers don't even know how to go about pricing their cards right now, the way things are moving. Secondly, whenever applicable, I'll tell you what I'm seeing the cards actually selling for. So let's start with this one. Energy Flux, the original from Antiquities, it goes up $103.92 to $234.95. In reality, though, when you look at high-grade sales, I have seen some encapsulated copies selling for about $155. Nothing seems to be hitting the $230 mark right now, though. Juxtaposed from Legends up $112.74 to $143.40, or is it? Well, not really. I have not seen any encapsulated copies sell. However, there are a lot of high-grade raw copies selling for about $45. Demonic Hordes from Unlimited on paper going up $139.88 this week to $215.01. High-grade encapsulated copies have sold for about $125. Sword of the Ages up $156.24 to $292.49. Now, I haven't seen any encapsulated copies of this sell. High-grade raw copies are selling for around $100 right now. Spinal Villain up $195 to $250. High-grade encapsulated copies seem to be selling for $100. High-grade raw copies for about $80. So again, that $250 price point seems a little exaggerated. City of Traders up $204.01 to $499.49. Now, I will tell you, raw high-grade copies seem to be selling for about $250, but encapsulated copies are hitting around this price point. Now, when it comes to gameplay, this sees extensive legacy play, and again, with those recent bannings, it could be seeing more in the future for sure. All Hallows Eve. Now, this is a price point I have seen encapsulated copies of the card hit. This goes up $216.68 to $700. Ali from Cairo, recent high-grade raw copies have been breaking about $400. I could see a future sale of an encapsulated copy in high-grade going for somewhere close to this. In theory, it's going up $249.53 to $707.50. Shahrazad, now this is another card that the price point is being pushed by encapsulated sales. This one goes up $254.01 to $749.50. Taiga from Unlimited, I have seen encapsulated sales actually sell for more than this. Raw copies are a little bit short of this, but in theory it's going up $266.67 to $1,000. Pixie Queen up $295.99 to $395.99. Is that for real? I have seen encapsulated copies break 300, but this is still a little high. The Abyss, now this one is really high, up $300 to $2,650. I've seen encapsulated high-grade copies go for about $1,500, but not $2,600. Bayou from Unlimited up $337.33 to $1,448.50. In reality, high-grade encapsulated copies can break 1,000, but not quite 1,500 yet. Mana Matrix up $633.51 to $705. High-grade encapsulated copies only going for about $160 right now. High-grade raw copies about $80. So again, this feels like some pretty strong manipulation. And finally for this section, we have Black Lotus from Unlimited. Ever since that alpha encapsulated 10 copies sold at auction for over $500,000, a lot of eyes have been on various copies of this card, including the Unlimited one. It goes up $5,350 this week to $24,250. And that whole thing really could have started the boom of all these vintage cards going up in value and more people getting them graded. That brings us to the Commander Spotlight, and this week again we're seeing less of the reserve list cards. There's still a lot of them here, but we're seeing more normal cards on here too. So things hopefully maybe in a few weeks will start to look a little more like a normal episode of the Market Watch again. Some of these cards on the reserve list are really moving because of the reserve list status, but they do see at least a little Commander play since Commander is a pretty open format. If that's the case with a certain card and I don't have anything additional to add, we'll just move on to the next one. Stuffy Doll from Time Spiral, again from the Time Spiral block, so it could be reprinted, who knows. But currently this goes up $418 to $1319. And this has seen increased Commander play in some of these new builds that use Star of Extinction, which we talked about earlier. Things like Toralf, God of Fury, and Egar the Freezing Flame. Illusions of Grandeur is next. This goes up $425 to $20. Many times you do see this in Zedruu the Great Hearted Commander decks. Necropotence from Eternal Masters up 427 to 3907. Great vintage card, great commander card. This is seeing more commander play now in Tergrid God of Fright / Tergrid's Lantern commander builds. Drawing extra cards there is especially good because a lot of the discard effects that deck uses are reciprocal. Karn Silver Golem from Urza Saga of 427 to 4499. This does see some play as a commander. Humility, this goes up 429 this week to 8928, and this does see some legacy and commander play. Next we have Vigor. This is the original Lorwyn copy going up 435 this week to 1201. This is a popular commander card seeing more play now due to some Kaldheim cards like Vorinclex Monstrous Raider, Toski Bearer of Secrets, Finn the Fangbearer, and more. Worms of the Earth, this one goes up 435 this week to 2722. The original Maze of Ith from the Dark, reprinted not too long ago in Double Masters. This does see a good amount of play in Legacy as well as Commander. Goes up 443 this week to 3743. Cabal Coffers, highly played commander card, seeing more play now in Tergrid God of Fright decks. That's one of the cards from Kaldheim that's very popular to build around. Also, too, if you watched Commander Versus this week, this was in 2 decks. One was a Tergrid deck. The other was a Egon God of Death / Throne of Death deck. Torment goes up 438 this week to 7693. Plane Chase up 444 to 8689. Phyrexian Marauder, this goes up 450 to 989. Temporal Aperture, sometimes you'll find this in Kozilek the Great Distortion, commander builds, and more. This goes up $453 to $30. Sword of Feast and Famine, the copy from Double Masters, it goes up $454 to $54.96. This sees modern and legacy play with Stoneforge Mystic. And again, with the recent bannings in those formats, maybe this sees more play in the future. Also gets a ton of commander play in builds old and new. Serendib Efreet, I always loved this revised copy with the template error on it. It goes up 455 to 1837 this week. Maybe somebody is trying to collect some random error cards, I don't know. This one was never corrected within the revised set though. Now this is a good 93-94 card from revised, so that could be part of the reason it's moving as well. It also does see a little commander play. Very Noble, this goes up 465 to 948, and this might not be a bad spec since Wizards has been supporting classic tribes quite a bit in recent products. Only a matter of time before they get back to fairies, I'm sure. Champion's Helm from Commander goes up 466 to 34.99. Solid commander card, seeing a little more play now in those Commander Toski Bearer of Secrets builds. Teferi's Isle, this one goes up 468 this week to 17.99. Feldegriff, this is a fairly popular commander. It goes up 475 to 24.99. Tika's Dragon, we have seen some obscure dragons get hot recently. This could go into a Magda Brazen Outlaw build, although I haven't seen a lot of that in deck lists. This goes up 478 this week to 14.99. Koskan Falls up 480 to 19.99. Lifeline up 484 to $50. Orin Frostfang, this goes up 486 to 18.99. This is a solid commander card, seeing more play now, again because of some Kaldheim cards. Those include things like Yorn God of Winter, Finn the Fangbearer, Toski Bearer of Secrets, and Koma Cosmos Serpent. Sol Ring from Revised, it is hot, even though we know this gets reprinted in all those commander products. It's also being reprinted in an upcoming secret layer called Black is Magic. But regardless, this copy goes up 490 to 24.99. Great commander card, obviously, highly played in the format, also sees some vintage play too. Jungle Patrol, this goes up 491 to 974. Liliana of the Val from Ultimate Masters goes up 495 to 64.94. Now this does see modern play in Rakdos midrange. John did more. Again, with the bannings that we saw in that format, maybe those decks see more play. Perhaps Liliana becomes a bigger card again within the modern world. And also this does see some legacy play too. Aside from that though, this has seen increased commander play now in those Tergrid God of Fright builds. Replenish, this is great in enchantment heavy commander builds, and it gets a little legacy play too. It goes up 496 this week to 145.11. Kozilek Butcher of Truth from Ultimate Masters. Now this copy was priced ahead of the other copies of the card, then it came down quite a bit last week. Rebounds a little this week, up 502 to 84.56. In Modern, this is in Tron builds and some other decks at times, although remember, Tybalt's Trickery was banned in Modern, and this was a card that showed up many times in those builds. Additionally, this does see a lot of commander play in Kozilek the Great Distortion and more. Currently, this is getting more play because of Kaldheim cards, like a lot of cards we've been talking about today. This time, those cards include Svella Ice Shaper and Isika God of the Tree. Meditate goes up 507 this week to $28. Temporal Manipulation, the copy from the list, goes up 512 to $26.89. This does see a fair amount of commander play in various builds. Force of Will, the original from Alliances, goes up 518 this week to 107.15. This was reprinted not too long ago in Double Masters. Sees a ton of play though in Legacy, Vintage, and Commander. Gemstone Caverns, another card from Time Spiral, so again be cautious. This goes up 543 this week to 64.97. This does see some Commander play and a good amount of play in Legacy. Cursed Totem, the copy from Mirage, goes up 552 this week to 35.87. And this does see some Commander play in a lot of different builds. Wrath of God from Revised, another card that went up in value, then it retracted last week, bounced back this week. It goes up 558 this week to $49. This is a highly played Commander board sweep. Sorrow's Path, this goes up 566 to 25.12. Allosaurus Shepherd, not only does this see Legacy Elf play, but of course this does see Commander Elf Tribal play as well. Getting a push now because of the focus on the Elf Tribe in Kaldheim, which we've been discussing throughout the video. This goes up 578 this week to 105.77. Hidden Path, this goes up 582 to $24. It feels like people are now going back to the dark and saying, okay, which reserve list cards haven't spiked yet? Alright, maybe I'll try to buy those before they get too expensive, because a lot of the ones that nobody cared about over the last few months when they were picking up other cards from the dark, they all seem to be spiking now. Heritage Druid from Eternal Masters. Not only does this see play in Commander Elves, although that is most likely the reason it's moving this much this week, it also sees play in Modern Elves as well as Legacy Elves. This goes up 589 to 1569. Knights of Thorn, this goes up 609 this week to 1650. Felwar Stone from the Dark, the original copy, up 614 to 2950. Highly played Commander Mana Rock. Priest of Titania for Mystery Booster goes up 622 to 1499. This is solid in Commander Elf decks and other decks in the format too, but nothing is pushing this more than Lathril Blade of the Elves right now. Spirit of the Night, this goes up 650 to 1649. Droarga Warcaller, surprise surprise, another card that's good in Commander Elf tribal decks. World Weight goes up 414 to 1899. Commander 2014 goes up 675 to $20.10. Soldevi Excavations, this goes up 706 to $30.24. Witch Hunter, the original from the Dark, goes up 748 to $15.99. Parage of Urborg. Now this one is a Cat Warrior, so it might not be a bad spec, again, based on what we have been seeing when it comes to tribe support recently. This goes up 762 to $12.31. Equipoise up 774 to $32.74. Dwarven Blood Boiler. Remember, Kaldheim also gave a lot of support to the Dwarf tribe. This goes up 787 to $22.50. It has seen increased Commander play in Magda Brazen Outlaw builds, and also did get a Command Zone mention this week too. The Ur-Dragon from Commander 2017, this is only found in foil. It goes up 805 to $29.99. Very popular Commander. Ruby Medallion, this whole cycle is good in a lot of different Commander builds out there. And this is in a lot of new builds based around Kaldheim cards, but nothing is pushing this more right now than Birgi, God of Storytelling. Commander Anthology Volume 2 goes up 567 to $34.74. Commander 2014 goes up 847 to $30.95. Sarah Aviary, this has seen a little increased Commander play in builds around the Commander Legends card Kanji Skywarden. This goes up $9 to $17.99. Yevamaya Hollow, nice Commander utility card that is seeing more play around some new Kaldheim cards too, including Vorinclex Monstrous Raider. This goes up $9.51 to $139.49. Morphling, many times you'll find this in experimental Crash builds in Commander. It goes up $9.68 to $39.99. This one's not an elf on its own, but it does interact with elves, which is why it is so hot right now. Skyshroud Poacher goes up $10.41 to $36.49. Scarwood Bandits goes up $10.48 to $29.99. Blizzard is next, and Kaldheim did bring back the snow mechanic. I have seen this in the odd Yorn God of Winter Commander deck list. It goes up $10.67 this week to $13.47. Wormwood Treefolk, and Treefolk is another classic tribe Wizards could do more with in the future. This goes up $10.90 to $20. Phyrexian Negator from Urza's Destiny. This has shown up in some Blim Comedic Genius Commander builds recently. It goes up $13.50 to $22.48. City of Shadows. This card won't go away. It goes up $14.64 this week to $84.97. Rock of Courages. This is the one from Revised, of course, going up $14.98 this week to $27.99. Kindred Summons. The main reason this is moving up right now is Lathril Blade of the Elves. But this is a solid tribal support card for Commander in general. It goes up $16.11 to $33.80. Urtai Wizard Adept, it feels like there's some market manipulation around this card. In theory, it's going up $27.60 to $60.99. When it comes to high-grade copies that actually have sold, though, they've been selling for around $35. Now, this is a wizard, and it may be moving because of Strixhaven speculation. Next, we have Mobilize from Portal. This goes up in theory $28.95 to $48.48, but again, high-grade copies seem to be selling for less than that at around $25. Now, this has seen some increased play again because of Lateral Blade of the Elves and Commander. And finally, for this section, we have Sapphire Medallion, one more medallion. Now, in theory, Commander 2014 going up $22.36 to $49. Tempest up $61.30 to $89.99. When I looked at actual sales, though, it appears both copies seem to be selling for about $25 in high grade. I would expect them to go up, though, partially because of this manipulation that's going on, but also partially because not only is this a great commander card in general, but it's really good in Orvar, the all-form commander builds. If you made a copy of this with Orvar, then you could really abuse something like Whim of Volrath, for example. There's a weird misprint around copies of this card, too. I don't know if that's a coincidence or not, but there are copies of the card where you can see an image of Charlie Brown lightly in the background because of something that went wrong during the actual printing process. And that's going to bring us to the premium spotlight. Now, there's a lot of premium cards spiking right now. A lot of them are being manipulated, though, so be very careful if you're trying to purchase something. Do your research. Look at what cards are really selling for. You can always check eBay sold and completed listings to get an idea. And I don't like to spend too much time, as you know, talking about these rare cards because a lot of times that data can be skewed. If there's not a lot of sales in a given week, you don't necessarily get the best data. And that does create opportunity for somebody that might want to manipulate the value. But this week I did pick 4 cards I wanted to show you. These are all cards we talked about previously in the video. The first one is the foil copy from Scars of Mirrodin of Vizuri Renegade Leader. It goes up $15.42 to $30. Next we have Yavimaya Hollow. This is the foil copy from Urza's Destiny. It goes up $29.52 to $419.47. Next, we have Phyrexian Negator. This is the Judge foil. It goes up $33.04 this week to $150. And finally, we have Hellkite Tyrant, the Gatecrash foil. It goes up $40.85 to $79.95. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of the Market Watch. If you stuck with me through all this, thank you. It does feel like things are calming down slowly. Maybe we're turning the corner. If you think back to the beginning of February, end of January, things were even more turbulent. So hopefully as we move into the spring, perhaps things will begin to normalize. Until next time, though, hey, stay safe out there. Thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe and have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible through the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon and have a great day.